Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So I was listening to a podcast recently and this writer was talking about like this wealth ladder that people progress. And he kind of broke down the different, 5 stages of building wealth. So the first stage was from zero to, $10,000. And in this phase of your life, you're focused on more, making more money, keeping your expenses low, being frugal with your money so that you could basically save up an emergency reserve so that if you have a health issue, a car breakdown issue, or you need something new, you can basically afford to do that without going into debt. So during this ladder 1 phase, it's more of like having emergency reserve, not having credit card debt and being frugal and mindful in how you spend. So, this is like phase 1. And then, step 2 is like $10,000 to $100,000 range. So this part is also, pretty hard to get out of, in my opinion, but it's basically being able to do the same thing, but for a longer period of time. So at this point, it's just like, okay, obviously you have no credit card debt. You have to, make money. Like the more you make as a W-2 or business, the better. And then you want to keep your expenses as low as possible once again. And being frugal is very key. Or in this point, you can start investing in like your 401k. You can maybe max out your 401k or contribute to your IRA. And that's probably the phase you'll be at for a while. So in this phase, once again, it's really about increasing your income over time and then keeping your expenses exactly the same as long as possible. And remember, your base expense is going to be your rent. So if you can live at home or you can rent a room for cheaper, that's the ideal option. Or if you do have to rent, then, getting a more cost-effective apartment, or like I said, you can rent a room out in a house for pretty cheap, even in an expensive area like the Bay Area or Los Angeles. Like you can rent rooms out for like probably $1,000, $1,200 for all utilities, which isn't terrible. But once again, it's just really about keeping your expenses low, and then at most you'll probably be like investing in like index funds through your 401k or through your IRA. Right? And then the next phase is about 100,000 to $1 million. So this is like phase 3. And in this phase, once again, like what's really key is focusing on increasing your W-2 income and then keeping your expenses the same. But now you want to like start investing more aggressively. So at this point, you're probably maxing out your 401k, you're maxing out your IRA, maybe you're doing brokerage accounts on the side on top of that. And then maybe you start dabbling in like real estate. And at this point, maybe you want to supplement your income by doing a little side business, a side hustle while you're working your full-time W-2. Right. So I was in this phase for a long period of time, and I was able to get out of this phase because I, house hacked rental properties where I put 10% down, and I basically put $8,000 down for $800,000 per property. Obviously interest rates were lower back then, so my interest rate was like 4%, and I was able to rent out the 3 other bedrooms in my house for $1,000 each. That helped lower my living expenses, helped me subsidize the cost of the piece of property I owned, and then obviously, over time from 2017 till today, the property appreciated massively. No one would have known it would appreciate that massively. So, chalk it up to luck or, just bought at the right time. But, in 2017, when I was buying, people told me that the real estate market was going to crash. I was being stupid. Why did I buy? But now people look back and say, wow, you got lucky because I bought it. So like, it doesn't matter which route you go, just take action, right? So like when I bought my property, I knew, okay, worst case scenario, and I was literally fine doing this. So like if I couldn't find any renters in my property and I was living in the house, like could I afford the monthly cost of $4,000 a month? And the answer is yes. Like I could, like worst case, if I had no tenants in the house, it was just me living in there by myself, and I couldn't rent anything, it's $4,000 a month, and I can afford to do that because I was working a W-2, and I have a high income W-2, so I can do that, right? Or worst case, if let's just say I lost my job, how many months can I sustain this property, assuming I had no renters? And at that point, if it's $4,000 a month, I probably had maybe 25,000, something like that. So I was like, okay, I knew I could last around, let's say 5 months. And, could I find a job in that 5-month window? I think I could, right? Maybe I wouldn't be a pharmacy manager. Maybe I'd be a regular pharmacist. And then I also thought too, well, if I lost my job, I know I could rent out my master bedroom that I was staying in, and I would move into the living room, which no one used. And I would literally put up like a little wall partition because the living room was huge. Like the living room was the same size as the master, if I'm being honest, but I could have like rented out the 3 other bedrooms plus my master, probably gotten around like $4,300 a month, which was enough to cover my mortgage. And I could literally live in this living room, which was completely empty. I just can partition it off, put my bed there, and then live there, right? So I was willing to do that, sacrifice, and know that I could do that. So, and I just knew too, like, okay, worst case scenario, let's say I lose my job. Let's just say I burn my emergency reserve, can't rent it out, I lose the property, I get wiped out, I sell the house for a loss. Then, I'm back at zero, right? Like I file for bankruptcy and I'm back at zero, living at home, still making a good salary as a pharmacist. So like what I'm sharing is like from the 100,000 to million range, you have to take calculated risk and look at your downside. And like, can you like walk through your downside? Like I just walk through my downside. I lose my job. Okay, if I lose my job, how long does it take me to find another job? Maybe worst case 5 months, right? Okay, if I lost my job, would I be willing to rent out my master bedroom and live in the living room? Yeah, it's fine. I'll do that, right? Because I knew I could get tenants there. I always had 3 tenants there at all times. Anytime a tenant left, I knew that I could rent out the room. And, worst case, I lower my rates a little bit, but I knew I could rent out my master and just live down in the living room, right? Well, I'd be happy. I mean, I was downstairs anyways because the family room was right next to the living room. So like, I'm always down watching TV. So like, I didn't mind being down there. And then worst case, like I just go bankrupt, go back to zero. And, I'm just living at home again, trying to find a job as a pharmacist and just start over again. So that's what my decision-making matrix was. So obviously that I can handle the downside, but the upside, obviously I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect it to go up to like $1.4 million today and make $600,000 doing nothing, essentially, right? And then at principal pay down, obviously COVID happened. I could refinance my rate to 3% from 4%. But thanks to this property and looking at my downside, I was able to buy my first house hack, my second house hack, third house hack. And then because of these house hacks, and then because of just renting it out to the same tenants and, whatever black swan event of COVID, interest rates drop, all these properties skyrocket in value. Then, I stepped into ladder 4, which is where I'm currently at, which is 1 million to 10 million. And, I'm close to approaching ladder 5, which is 10 million to 100 million, which is probably the most I'll go to. I can't imagine myself being 100 million plus unless I do some type of business or something really takes off, but I just can't really imagine myself getting there, but who knows? Maybe I'm underestimating myself. But, once you're in this like ring 4, it's quite interesting because at this point, like literally probably my assets is making more money than I am. Like literally like this year in 2025, the stock market has been so volatile, and then obviously home prices like fluctuate based on Zillow, and it's kind of like sometimes in like 1 month, my net worth will, let's say you have a bad stock market dip, housing went down, my net worth would dip by about like $150,000, and I'm just like, and I don't even bat an eye to that, and then, but literally, my job making like $200,000. Like literally my net worth fluctuates by about almost a pharmacist salary. Average pharmacist makes about 150, and it doesn't even make a difference to me, right? But the only advantage of like having the W-2 income is that it's more liquid, right? Like my 401k obviously isn't that super liquid. I do have brokerage Vanguard money in there, but like for some reason, like when I put money in my Vanguard account as a brokerage, I just don't view it as my money anymore. I just feel like I just there and I don't touch it. But in reality, I could touch it, or I have a line of credit against it, which I can mobilize. And then like, obviously I have real estate, I have rental income. So like, just looking at the principal pay down on my whole portfolio every single month, I think it's almost like $8,000 to $10,000 a month of principal pay down. And I'm just like, that's improving my net worth by $10,000 a month just by principal pay down. Because tenants pay me, and then it pays, maybe the property breaks even, but it's paying down my principal. And that's like, more than what pharmacists take home. So in the phase of like 1 million to 10 million, like your assets almost make more than you. So it's like almost I'm competing against my assets now. Like, so I'm like been trying to like, obviously I got a new job and it pays me more, like on the higher end of what a pharmacist will ever make. So I kind of tapped out, but that's why I've been trying to like get into business, because, business, obviously much harder with business, but your income potential can be unlimited. But it is much harder, right? Like it's not easy. Like, right now my business, which is like YouTube/coaching, makes way less compared to like my W-2 job and my assets, but one day it could take it over, right? You never know. right? That's the infinite upside of social media and the ultimate leverage of content, which is why I create content, because it's basically the highest form of leverage, where I post a video one time and it's there forever, and people can watch it 3, 4, 5 years from now, and do that. So like I said, in this range of ladder 4 of $1 million to 10 million, it's all about like your assets making more money. And then the wrinkle I would even add on top of this is like, at this point, it's just more as like you're optimizing towards like lifestyle. Like in this ladder, 1 million to 10 million, and depending on where you live, like that's enough to achieve FIRE, like financial independence, retire early. So, if you're living in a cheaper cost of living area, obviously you can be around 1 to 3 million and probably hit your FIRE number. If you're living in a more expensive area, like California, New York, then, you might have to be like, 8 to 10 million, a little bit higher in that ladder 4 range. And like I said, if you're willing to like, move to a cheaper area, you can accelerate your FIRE journey. Or if you want to, play in hard mode like me and live in Los Angeles and retire early, then you have to make some sacrifices. Like for me, I have to probably sell one of my rentals, an asset that I own that's making money, that's having principal pay down, that's appreciating over time, sell that to pay off this house. And then now, I lost leverage, but, I own this house free and clear, and I can, live here at my leisure, at my will, because I want to be here. So, it's a sacrifice that you have to make with that. And, that's why people in the FIRE community tend to move to like cheaper cost of living areas, because, you can, whatever, $3 million may not be much in California, but that can get you a lot further in like Vegas or Colorado, Arizona, just some of these neighboring areas. Or if you geo-arbitrage internationally to like Thailand, Vietnam, Bali, like $1,000 a month can get you very, very far with that. So that's kind of the thing that we've been thinking about. And then obviously once you hit this range too, you have to start pivoting your mindset, less frugality, more about spending money on things that make your life better and easier, right? So this isn't necessarily material goods. Like, it's just like, okay, maybe now you can, before you were too frugal to like pay for a maid to clean your house, but now you can pay $400 a month to have a maid clean your house every 2 weeks. Maybe you're washing your own car to save money, but now you can afford to pay a guy $40 to come here and like wash your car for you. I have a gym here. Maybe I'll just pay $40 for a gym membership to use the steam room sauna, because, I like using the steam room sauna, and, or I just can buy a sauna and put it in my house for $5,000. So it's about like going towards conveniences, or like maybe I'll, do Walmart Plus, or have things delivered to me instead of going there to buy it, right? So it's like thinking differently. Like what got me to ladder 4 won't help me enjoy ladder 4 or phase 4, which is this wealth. And that's the mindset that I've been trying to make, is I need to like stop being as frugal and then think more of like what gives me value, what brings me convenience. And, we can spend this money. And like, that's what Christy and I were talking about last night. It's like, wow, like we have all this money and like we're not really super enjoying it. And there are things that we can do and levers we can pull to make our life easier, right? Like whether it's even like getting a massage NB membership, which is like what, $1,200 a month or a year, which is $100 a month. I mean, like we can easily afford that. And if we appreciate that and it brings value to us, then just do it. So, and for me, I don't really think I restrict my spending, but I'm just very like, at this point, like I'm very conscious in how I spend my money. Like buying clothes, watches, and that stuff like doesn't really do much for me anymore. Or like material goods or like gadgets. Like, cause I kind of don't like clutter at this point. I just want as many minimal things as possible, but I want things to be like very functional and like things that I would actually use. So, we all look in our closet and you see like, you don't even wear 80% of your clothes. So that's why now, like, I always make fun of my wife for this. Like, we have clothes she has clothes with like holes in it. I'm like, dude, just throw it away. Like, if you throw it away, you'll realize that, I have this other shirt that's nice. And then, you'll wear that shirt instead. So like every time you get rid of something, it opens up opportunity for something else to come in. Right. So like, it's just like, dude, you just throw it away. And like, or if you're out of clothes, just buy something. Like you can afford it. And you can wait for a sale, or you just can buy it if you like it. So we're just trying to like shift towards that mindset. But like I said, we're still in that kind of like scarcity hoarding mindset, and we're just hoarding money, hoarding assets. So like I said, it's a different shift change, right? Because like what got us to build this wealth was hoarding, scarcity, being very frugal. But now we have to shift our mindset to like spending money in ways that frees up our time, right? A car wash would free up my time. Paying a guy to come here to wash my car would free up time. Maybe paying a barber to come here to cut my hair would save me time. Having a maid clean the house will save us time. Eventually when you have kids, maybe just putting your kid in daycare once in a while if you want a break from your kids will make our life better. Going to Massage Envy, like just doing all these little things. Like in terms of like travel, like we never compromise. Like if I travel, I never will skimp on travel, or I'll never skimp on experiences. Like I've been on a concert binge recently where I'm just going to a bunch of concerts, perks of living in LA. And it's like, dude, at most it's like 150. Like I don't need to be like front row. Cause it doesn't really matter to me, but like I can be in the back and then, still enjoy the vibe and have a good time. Right. And see these performances. And it's like not even that much money. And like it's just being very intentional how you spend. So for us, like it's all about travel. Like when we travel, we spare no expense. Like, maybe we won't stay in the Four Seasons hotel, but like we'll stay in a decent hotel in a good location that's affordable, we can walk around to many places. So like we choose location and convenience and cost-effective price, because when we travel, we usually aren't in a hotel that often. But if we were in a hotel often, we probably would spend more for a nicer hotel, right? So it's really being intentional with how you spend and conscious on all these things. And I think me and Christina already mastered that. So like we can basically just live, what Ramit Sethi would say, your full rich life. So that's really kind of the mindset that I've been making. And then obviously once if I achieve that 10 million to like 100 million range, it's going to be because of, just time, right? My assets compounding over time, or if I acquire more real estate, or if I like build like a business, right? That starts to pump out more money. And to get to that next level, right? If I want to get close to that 100 million range, it's just, having, like, think of like Pace Morby or like Thatch and Win. Obviously they have really large mentorships, masterminds, communities, and they make a lot of money from that. And they use that money to go buy more real estate so that they have like 100 million, plus worth of real estate themselves, right? But I'm not sure if I want to get to that point. I don't think I'm that entrepreneurial. But, if I can get to, I don't know, I'd say 50 million is what I'm aiming for, then obviously I'll start to like kind of like lifestyle inflate, and then I can, do more investing opportunities. But like I said, I'm fine as is, like how we currently are, like living this lifestyle. But I just don't know, like the only wrinkle that throws me off is like the cost of kids. Like I think it's gonna be about $2,000 on average per kid. I know daycare is expensive, but maybe we don't need it every single day. And we're very like, in the terms of like buying groceries, like we're very like good at buying groceries. Like we just buy whatever, like, you go to the Asian supermarket or any supermarket, we just like focus on buying things that are like on sale. Like we're very indifferent. Like if I see beef's on sale, we'll buy beef. If chicken's on sale, we buy chicken. If pork's on sale, we buy pork. So like we're like very intentional in that, and how we spend. So like I remember like going to a grocery store one day and like I just bought like 8 drumsticks for like $2, and that's enough for like 3 meals. Right? If you have rice and other things, I'm like, it's not even that expensive, right? Or even if that fed a family of 4, like it's like $2 to feed a family of 4. Like it's relatively inexpensive, right? Like chicken and pork is relatively cheap compared to like beef. But even though you can get beef, go to Costco, buy in bulk, they have discounts. So like just being very intentional how you spend, and we already mastered that. So anyways, just wanted to give a rant about, kind of the wealth ladder steps, and then, how your mindset needs to change as you step up each ladder, and like what you need to do to get to each ladder point. So I just wanted to share that. Hopefully you got some insight from this. Hopefully it gave you some value. Let me know if you have any questions. Love to see your comments down below. If you want one-on-one coaching, you want courses, you want to send me an email, click my link tree down below. From there you can get a hold of me. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.